on there, and we're expecting to see that site now open sometime next month. Kat?
Thanks for this, Dale. CBC's Dale Molnar live from City Hall tonight. Windsor police are upping their reward for 2 cold case murders, which happened 20 years ago today. 29-year-old DB Leanne Williamson and her 4-year-old son Brandon Rucker, also known as Xavier, were found dead in their home on the city's West End on February 27, 2003. According to police, Williamson was found beaten to death in the home's basement, and her son's body was found in the bathroom on the main floor. In an effort to solve the 20-year-old murder, police are now doubling the reward, offering $40,000 for information that will help bring justice to the case. Windsor police said there are people out there who know who is responsible for these deaths and can help them solve the crime. Police are asking anyone with information to get in contact. Over the weekend, we learned a Windsor police acting deputy chief has been charged with stunt driving. It became public through an uncommon Saturday news release 7 weeks after it happened. And now it's raising many questions about what happened here and how that investigation was handled. CBC's Jason Vio joins us live with more on this. Jason, what can you tell us about this?
Well, Kat, I already knew about this independently, and I was trying to confirm it myself, and that's when I filed a Freedom of Information request asking a number of questions. That was filed last Tuesday and is still going through the 30-day process. Then on Saturday, Windsor Police released this information. Here's what police confirmed. Crowley was pulled over in Amherstburg on January 7th, nearly 2 months ago. He was pulled over by an officer on traffic enforcement for going 111 kilometers an hour in an area with a speed limit of 70 kilometers per hour. That's 41 over. The acting deputy chief was allowed to go without any charges.
And Jason, what should have happened in this case?
Well, Ontario's Highway Traffic Act is pretty clear. And for anyone who is charged with stunt driving, if someone is caught going 40 kilometers or more over the speed limit of 80 kilometers or less, they face an immediate 30-day license suspension and an immediate 14-day vehicle impoundment. If convicted, it could also mean a fine of at least $2,000, jail for up to 6 months, and demerit points. And it's also worth noting the Windsor Police has been actively posting on social media about people facing stunt driving charges this month. At least 3 posts on Twitter showing vehicles being towed after the driver went way over the speed limit. Windsor Police also saying things in those tweets like, "Come on, people, there are other lives at risk besides yours."
Jason, what do we know about what happened after the deputy chief was pulled over?
Well, we do know he was allowed to leave without any charges. And in that weekend news release, police also say the acting deputy chief told Chief Jason Belair about this, but they didn't say when exactly he made that disclosure. That's when Belair directed the Professional Standards Branch to investigate, but we also don't know who investigated and what rank they hold. And this is important because Windsor Police has a relatively new conflict of interest directive. It came to be after a 911 call to former Chief Al Frederick's home in 2018, where his deputy chief at the time investigated. Now, the Ontario Civilian Police Commission also gave Windsor Police 37 recommendations on ways to improve, and creating a conflict of interest directive was one of them. Here's what it says. Officials must ensure investigations involving a member of the service are conducted by the supervisor or another member holding a rank higher than the subject member. Now, I requested interviews with Crowley and Belair and was told they won't be commenting right now. I also asked to speak with Mayor Drew Dilkins, who's chair of the police board. I have not heard back, but I did hear back from the Ministry of the Solicitor General. A spokesperson says it did contact Windsor Police and the board to ensure it understood its responsibility under the Police Services Act and when to refer to the Ontario Civilian Police Commission if appropriate. Now, we did reach out to the OCPC late in the day and have not heard back.
Thanks so much for this, Jason. Thousands of federal government workers won't be able to watch TikTok videos on their work phones anymore. The video sharing platform is owned by a company with close connections to the Chinese government. And as Rafi Boudjikanian explains, Ottawa's TikTok ban for federal employees comes at a time when concerns about cybersecurity are on the rise.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister's inflationary policies
from the leader of the official opposition to the NDP's Jagmeet Singh, TikTok has been a huge platform for Canadian politicians looking for new ways to reach voters online. Globally, it's amassed 1 billion users, often seen as a repository of light-hearted videos, but it's also been cause for concern for months. TikTok's parent company ByteDance is based in Beijing, raising worries about Chinese state surveillance in the West. The USA banned TikTok off all federal government devices at the end of last year, two bodies of the European Union following suit earlier this month. And now,
we're looking carefully at how to ensure Canadians are kept safe online, and we're making the decision that for government employees, for government equipment, it is better to not have them access TikTok because of the concerns that people have in terms of safety.
While a spokesperson for the company responded it is disappointed it got no contact from Ottawa before the move and pointed out the government did not cite specific security concerns. It also says Canadian user data is stored in servers in the US and Singapore, not China.
It's not just data located in a physical place and confined to one geographic safe place, or geographic region that we determine as safe. There can be backdoor ways of accessing that information and that data on those servers.
Small wonder, this expert says, Canada moved to ban the app off government devices.
It also perhaps gives that information or sells that information to other third parties. Other third parties can access this information, and there's not a lot of clarity about what they would do with this type of information. Could it be just for advertising purposes, for commercial purposes, or could it be for more nefarious purposes, for example, for espionage?
Debate in the US, meanwhile, has turned toward banning the app entirely from the country. Trudeau says that's not something his government is considering for Canadians at the moment. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
And more calls today for a public inquiry into alleged Chinese interference in Canadian elections. But the Prime Minister is pushing back against one news report raising questions about a Toronto area MP. Catherine Cullen reports.
It's not whether we might have had a different Prime Minister, but recent reports have questioned whether China meddled in particular ridings in the last two elections. The Prime Minister has responded by focusing on the overall election results.
Both in the 2019 and the 2021 elections, our election integrity held.
But the Globe and Mail has cited secret CSIS reports suggesting China wanted a Liberal minority and tried to take down specific Conservative candidates. That has provoked political outrage.
It's clear that Justin Trudeau has been covering up the interference of the authoritarian regime in Beijing.
Now, Global News has raised fresh concerns about a Liberal candidate in the 2019 election, too. It's all led to growing calls for a public inquiry, including from the leader of the NDP and Canada's former top spy.
I think public attention has become more and more focused on this issue, and I think we all collectively owe it to understand what is and is not happening, to reassure people, and I think a public inquiry would do that.
Liberal MP Han Dong said in a statement he rejects allegations he played a role in offshore interference. The Prime Minister did not directly answer the question of whether CSIS had warned him about Dong, but did defend his MP.
Han Dong is an outstanding member of our team, and suggestions that he is somehow not loyal to Canada should not be entertained.
The Prime Minister has suggested that politicians on a parliamentary committee will get answers on foreign interference, but as the allegations and the concern around them grow, the pressure on the Prime Minister to do more is growing too. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
First, it was prices at the pump, then it was groceries, and slowly the cost of everything swelled. Windsorites have told CBC News that during these inflationary times, their lives are actually doing the opposite. Budgets, savings accounts, and social lives have shrunk. We spoke with 3 women in different stages of their lives to see how inflation is impacting them and what they spend in a month. Tonight, you'll meet a first-time homeowner in Windsor.
Hi, my name is Alicia Bailey, and I am a new homeowner in Windsor, and this is how much I spend in a month. Every month I spend $3,300 in mortgage. Every month I spend between $150 to $300 eating out. Every month I spend between $800 to $1,200 in groceries. Every month I spend $900 in car payments. Every month I spend $300 to $600 in childcare payments. Every month I spend $60 in gym payments. Every month I spend $300 in cell phone payments. Every month I spend between $700 to $1,400 in utility bills. Every month I spend $300 in child activities. Inflation impacted us mostly socially, I would say, and or groceries, because groceries went up, and we can't really afford that social life that we had before in Toronto. Like I said, in Toronto, we were renting, the rent was smaller, and we had like a broader budget for social. Sometimes you want to get up Sunday mornings and say, hey, let's go out as a family and just enjoy a meal and go for a walk, maybe on the waterfront or wherever, you know what I mean? But sometimes you're stuck thinking about, do I get to go out, or do I think about, okay, well, if we go out, it's $150, that could buy groceries, you know what I mean? It really sucks that you have to be considering these things because of inflation. You know, that's one thing. Not having access to childcare as well, it hinders how my husband and I get to do things for ourselves as parents, because yes, it's our job as parents to take care of your children, but of course parents need a break too, right? In Toronto, we had like a babysitter who could come on the weekends because we could afford it, right? So maybe one Saturday out of the month she would come, she would watch him for 2 to 3 hours, and we could get to go out and just frolic and have a good time, you know? But I can't do that anymore, and it bothers you. It bothers you a lot, and I always say if you're not mentally strong, it really affects your mental health, because these are things that you used to do to make memories, and now you can't do them anymore.
A live look outside there. The nasty weather continues into this evening. We'll have Colette with weather right after the break. was hot enough to bake bread on the streets of Greece today, and tons of rose-colored flour to do it. Cheering strangers attacked each other in the streets of a fishing village outside of Athens. Wearing goggles and masks, they covered opponents in tinted flour. This annual flour war is as popular as, well, sliced bread. It marks the beginning of Greek Orthodox Lent and the last chance to let off some steam before heading into Easter. The festival is extremely popular, and so are the lineups at bars afterwards to wash away the grit. Colette Kennedy is with us now for weather. And Colette, looking at those visuals of people in t-shirts, I was full of envy because it's a very different scene here today.
Yeah, it certainly is, with the kind of wintry mix. Although I say wintry, yet when we've got rain in there, it's hard to think of it that way necessarily. I will give you a kind of heads up, though. We have some milder temperatures coming our way this week once we get to that 5-day forecast. But the current readings were at freezing or just above, and then you can see below freezing as you push towards London and Goderich. So what's happened is actually earlier today there were a couple of hours of freezing rain, but then primarily with that temperature rising, we've had rainfall to report, but you don't have to travel far like Chatham, Kent, or areas as we push towards London where it's more of a freezing rain or getting into snow mixing with ice pellets or freezing rain. Wind gusts, the story as well. Some of these gusts up towards 70 kilometers an hour, and we're going to find we'll still have these gusty winds as we approach midnight, and then after we'll start to see some improvement. Essentially, the winds will change direction, push around towards the southwest, and then as we go into tomorrow, we'll actually find by the afternoon they become much lighter. But there's also a pocket in here where we'll see some lighter winds, and that's going to allow the chance for some fog development, or seeing more fog developing and reducing visibility in that manner as well before the winds kick up again and then die down again, like I said, towards tomorrow afternoon. So a lot going on with even just the winds with this system pushing by. Those temperatures nearly steady overnight or dropping just a little bit as we go towards morning, and we get into just a situation where most of the moisture is gone, but some freezing drizzle left around early tomorrow morning. And with that temperature very close to freezing, any untreated surfaces, you could have a little bit of slickness there too. So there's the radar imagery. You see all the rainfall. Then we really get more towards that wintry mix where it's the ice pellets, freezing rain, and then into the snowfall, and quite extensive up towards the upper Great Lakes. And that's why this entire area here in blue, winter weather travel advisory into the nation's capital, through the Ottawa Valley. It's heavier snowfall, 10, 15, even 15 in some cases, approaching 20 centimeters of snowfall, but back here, just back towards Windsor, not even in that freezing rain warning because of the profile in terms of what we're seeing. So that pushes on. Even on the backside with this one, it would just be drizzle at the most that I think we're going to catch with it. So as we get into the later evening hours, we're really going to be seeing some improvement. And by tomorrow afternoon, I do anticipate we'll be getting into some clearing and getting some sun coming back. So no snow here. You see where it goes. It's all off towards central and eastern Ontario. Then tomorrow up to 7 degrees, and there's that warm up I was alluding to. 11 degrees by the time we get to Wednesday.
There it is, and it does look like we dodged most of that activity there.
Yes, doing very well.
Exactly. Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we'll tell you why a family recently relocated from Canada to Ukraine in the midst of a war. Stay with us. want to introduce you to a couple that met in Windsor and has now moved to Ukraine. Brian and Rosa Druitt met in Windsor more than a decade ago and then moved to Alberta. Rosa is Ukrainian and has always wanted to return home. They were ready to make the big move last February, but then Russia invaded. So plans were put on hold until August when they moved to the western part of Ukraine.
Well, everyone, we made it to Ukraine, finally. And it is beautiful where we live and peaceful. So I am going to show you where we're living.
Brian is vlogging his move. This is a look at where they are. He says they're in western Ukraine, about an hour and a half from the Slovakian and Ukrainian border. Rosa had their first child in January, a girl named Sophia. Brian says he hopes the war ends soon, but says they feel comfortable where they are right now with no plans to leave.
We are a few thousand miles away from where everything's going on, but, the effects still trickle to the west of the country. So, as you know, Russia was attacking infrastructure and obviously civilians. So our power was on for literally like 2 hours, and then it'll be off for 5 or 6. So we would rarely have power. The internet was really terrible. So even mobile data, you wouldn't even have. And it made it really hard to communicate with everyone back home. And, for us, it's like we live on the top of a big, nice, big, beautiful mountain. And people can follow us. I have a little YouTube channel where for family and friends, so they can keep up on what we're doing, and I just do it for them. And I don't know, I love Ukraine. I love especially the area where we're living. It's beautiful. And obviously, I hope this war ends. It's a terrible war. It's not great for anybody, to be honest. And we're just moving along, and we're just going to live our life one day at a time.
Before we go, it is International Polar Bear Day, an effort to protect the animals and raise awareness of the impact climate change is having. The Manitoba Field Unit of Parks Canada has shared some polar bear selfies to celebrate them. These shots were taken by remote cameras set up right on the shores of Hudson Bay, just south of Churchill, Manitoba. The cameras are triggered by motion from as far away as 22 meters and start taking photos at 1 interval per second. Park officials say the bears tend to come right up to the cameras, and clearly they know their best angles. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.